So this video is going to be a bit different. Now in this video, I just basically want to share with you 24 sales lessons that I learned from closing, around $1 million in deals. Now I'm not a sales expert. I'm not a high ticket closer. I wouldn't call myself like a sales coach, anyone like that. I actually think that for me, there's a lot of improvement that I can make on the sales side. So that's why I don't want to tell you about these things as I would, teach you. I just want to share with you 24 things, 24 lessons that I learned from closing $1 million in deals over the last few years, and taking probably hundreds of sales calls in my life. So let's start with the first one. The more you care about selling someone, the less chances you have of actually closing them. And what I mean by that is that a lot of the times when we had like a worse period in the agency and we weren't signing that many clients and I only had like few calls booked, every time I was jumping on those calls, I was coming across as someone really needy, because I was thinking, oh, I need more clients. And if you don't realize that a client actually needs you more than you need them, and if you don't have that in mind, subconsciously, if you don't have that, then basically you're gonna come across as someone like really needy, and you won't, like, the moment you start caring too much about the sale, it's gonna be super hard for you to close people. So that's why the best sales calls that I had, the quickest ones where I closed with no problems, no objections, were usually calls where I was just like, in a rush sometimes, having a lot of calls in my calendar, and I was just, jumping on a call, not really caring about the outcome, and then just going with the flow, doing my best, just focusing on the process instead of focusing on the end results. And that's what helped me ultimately get a lot of clients compared to me just trying so hard to close someone. Now, the second thing that I see, specifically talking to like very sophisticated buyers, is that you should always avoid sales pressure. Now, to some extent, sometimes you need that pressure to help someone make the decision at the end of the call. At the same time, I've seen so many closers kind of just lose the deals because they were too pushy. They created so much sales resistance, sales pressure, because they just tried to have the prospect make a decision on the call at all costs, and they were just spending 20 minutes just trying to handle that objection. The sales resistance, the card went up, and it was just impossible to close them. And that's why avoiding a sales pressure is something really important. Like I said, sometimes it might be needed to create a bit of pressure on that call to help someone make a decision. But if you just do it too much, like, you're gonna lose more deals than you're gonna close. Now, third lesson is that the bigger deal doesn't mean that the sale is gonna be harder. And to some extent, it's actually quite the opposite. When I was selling like $500,000 a month retainers, sometimes it was really hard to close these people. They had a lot of objections. I had to show them a lot of examples. They wanted to do test trials. It was just a nightmare. And now, when we get a client, the bigger the client is, the bigger the retainer is, the easier it is really to close them, like for them to make a decision. So that's why, if you think that if you increase the price, it's going to be harder for you to sell, a lot of the times it's actually quite the opposite. So the higher the price, the easier is the sale. And that's what I heard also from a lot of people in this space. They say that if they close a 100K deal, it's easier for them than closing a 10K one. So that's just, so most of the times, if someone thinks that if they increase the price or if they're going to sell a higher ticket product, it's going to be way harder, it's probably actually going to be easier. It might be just a bit different, but you probably won't experience the same things that you're experiencing with like a lower ticket stuff. Now, fourth lesson is to switch the roles. So what I mean by that is that best closers don't close people, like they don't try to force them they don't try to like hard sell them on stuff. Instead, they ask the right questions, getting the prospects to sell themselves. And what I see is that a lot of the times what they are using is questions that sound really weird to some extent, but answering those questions in a prospect's minds automatically kind of like nurtures them and sells them on the offer. So instead of closer trying to sell someone on the offer, is they allow the prospect to just sell themselves by asking the right questions. Now fifth lesson, money is in the follow-ups. I'm not the best closer. I wouldn't call myself the best closer. There's a lot of deals that I kind of lost on the call, like people not making a decision. At the same time, I would say I'm one of the best that I know at closing deals in the follow-ups. So a lot of the times I know that, let's say if I have a close rate for the month, of like 25%, I know I can easily make it, 40% over the next 6 months by just following up the right way, staying on top of my prospects' minds, and then just, converting them later when the timing is right. And I had a lot of situations where I literally, closed deals after like 15 follow-ups and no replies. So if you have the right process, really money is in the follow-ups, and you cannot just let the prospect go off the call and just, end the deal here. You gotta have a good follow-up process in place to make sure that you can, get them back into your pipeline. Now, sixth lesson is that even the best closers hear no more than they hear yes. 50% is a really, really, really good closing rate, but even that means that you're getting the same amount of yeses as you're getting the no's. And a lot of the time, if you have a closing rate of 25, 30, even 40%, automatically it means that you're gonna hear more no's than you hear yeses. And even before that, if we look at the process of just, again, generating leads, getting prospects, prospects to book a call. Again, probably for every yes, so like every person agreeing to book a call with you, you're gonna hear 10, 100, 500 people that are gonna say no to you. So as a salesperson, like you really just need to get used to hearing no's, because even the best salespeople hear no all the time, every single day. Now, seventh lesson is to always sell the end results, not the mechanism. That's something that I'm guilty of. A lot of the times when I was doing my sales calls, I was always focusing too much on like how exactly we can help our clients. This is how the process looks like. This is exactly what you get. And I wasn't really focusing that much on the end outcome. So like, what would be the result of, us doing those things, those services, delivering those services to a client, and just focusing on selling that dream outcome at the end. So it's really simple. Like a lot of people know that you should sell the vacation, not exactly like when's the flight, how's the flight gonna look like, how they're gonna go from the airport to the hotel. Those things don't really matter to people that much. They want to know what's the end result. Now, eighth lesson is that every prospect is different. So what I see even with my offer is that even though the offer is quite simple, different people buy it because of different reasons. So that's something that you need to take in mind, is that everyone coming to the call, there might be a different reason why they want to buy. If you're selling advertising services, let's say you run an agency, you're selling advertising services. Some people might come in wanting to buy your services because they are not doing, let's say, you're doing Facebook ads. They are not doing Facebook ads right now. Or maybe they are doing Facebook ads with an agency that is not delivering the results. Or maybe they are doing Facebook ads but by themselves. So there's a lot of different reasons why people might want to buy. Again, a lot of different pain points that they might be facing at the moment. So the way you need to structure the call is going to be a bit different in almost every scenario. That's why it's really important that you have a really good discovery part where you just gather all information. So then when you're pitching to them, you can tailor that pitch to make sure that it's actually relevant to that specific prospect. Now, next lesson, the way you perceive sales is going to affect your performance. What I mean by that is that if you think that sales is something unethical and you shouldn't really, follow up with people, or you shouldn't really try to handle their objections, you should just let them make a decision. Like the way you perceive those small things will really affect your performance. So that's why you should always look at sales, as a way of helping someone. Because if you have a really good offer, now it's your moral obligation to just close as many people as possible so they can, get the results that you can help them achieve. So that's why it's really important to view sales the right way, because if you perceive it the wrong way, you're gonna feel like an imposter, and then because of that, you're just not gonna close deals. Now, 11th lesson, be curious. One of the biggest difference between top salespeople and, mediocre salespeople is that the mediocre salespeople are really surface level. So when they are gathering information at the beginning of the call, they're really surface level. They don't ask the right questions. They don't go deep enough so that at the end, prospect doesn't really feel any pain and they don't move forward. And the top salespeople, they always dig really, really deep. Let's say, they ask how many clients they're getting at the moment. And, a prospect say, well, we're getting 2 a month. Then what they're gonna do is ask, okay, and how was it last month? How was it the month before? Is it the average? Like they're gonna just ask next questions. Or if someone says, oh yeah, we have, a 34% closing rate. What salespeople, like what the top salespeople is gonna do is gonna dig deeper. Okay, was it always like that? Like how long have you been doing this? Like how long have you been able to keep the 43 closing rate? Is it good month? Is it bad month? Like what would be the goal? Like they ask right questions around this specific topic. They always just to try to dig deeper, learn more, because they know that that's how you can really discover someone's pain and then how you can sell them at the end of the call. Next lesson, every lead is a buyer. So every time someone books a call or even replies to you positively, they want to buy something. And whether that's gonna be your product, your offer, your service, or someone else's, or whether that's gonna be right now or 1 month later, 3 months later, a year later, doesn't really matter. Everyone will buy something at a specific stage, So you should treat every lead as a buyer, because even if they are not ready to move forward right now, they might be a month from now, they might be 6 months from now. Maybe they would want something a bit different, a different product to yours. So every time someone jumps off a call and says no to you and is not interested, like they're probably gonna buy something at the one stage. So that's why it's also important to follow up, because a lot of the times they might be interested in exactly your offer, but just later, or sometimes they might be interested in something a bit different, more tailored to them. So it's your job to kind of find out what do they want to buy. And of course, sometimes it doesn't mean that you need to try to sell everyone on just whatever they want, because obviously if you're offering Facebook ad services and someone comes in and wants Google ads, you're not going to sell them on that. But you need to know that every lead that comes in is a buyer at some point. Now, 13th lesson is that the trust is everything. In order for someone to buy from you, they firstly need to trust you. They of course need to trust the process. They need to trust themselves, that they are able to actually work together with you and then get the end result. But at the end, they need to trust you as a person. They don't even have to trust that much in the company they have to trust you as a salesperson. And that's why sometimes you can lose a deal to like small things that will, because if let's say you say something on the call that's not true and a prospect finds out, and now you're losing trust in their eyes, you're not gonna close them probably. Like losing trust, like when you lose the trust, you're losing a client pretty much. So that's why it's really important that a client, that the prospect actually trusts you. So that's why trust is really everything. Now the next lesson is to never make assumptions, because there's countless of times where I was talking to someone and I thought they are not really our ideal clients, or maybe their business is probably too small and I was just making a lot of assumptions. And for example, it turns out, well, this guy, he has a small agency, just like 3 clients, but last year he sold his, another big business for like $8 million. Like I've had situations like that, and I was assuming, oh, they probably don't have money, they probably don't qualify as a client for us, they're too small. And then, turns out that they actually, have a really big business, or that they actually sold the business last year and they have a lot of money they want to invest. So never make assumptions in terms of like whether the client, is actually an ideal client and can actually afford my services. Never make assumptions in terms of what the client actually wants, because that's what's gonna really kill the deal. And that's why it's really important to have an in-depth discovery part in your sales call, so you can find out all the information, and then based on that information and not just your assumptions, make decisions. Now, 15th lesson is that you should never be afraid of objections. Almost every sales call ends with some kind of objections. Of course, what we need to focus on is to prevent those objections from happening in the first place. We shouldn't be just good at handling objections. We should always try to prevent those objections. But almost every time there are smaller objections that are, pretty much just like questions that the prospect asks, or big objections, that kind of like might stop the deal from moving forward. But you need to know that it's just a part of the process. You need to know how to handle that. And that's why, you need to get really good at firstly preventing the objections, but then also handling objections and just feeling comfortable in that process, understanding that it's a normal part of pretty much every sale. And when you understand that, it's gonna make the whole sales process way more enjoyable to you, and also you're gonna close way more deals. Now, 16th lesson is that sales is really a process, and that's how you should look at that. A lot of the times agency owners or coaches make this mistake that they think about sales in terms of just a sales goal. So they think, how can I jump on a call with someone and just close them? And I can just close as many people as possible. And you should always think about it as a process. So when a prospect books a call with you, for example, what happens then? Do they get any information before the call? Like how does the sales process look like? Do you have just one call close? Do you do 2 call close? Do you do the strategy part? Do you send them any information, in between calls or before the call? You need to optimize for everything. You need to make sure, you need to try to nurture and educate your prospects before they jump on a call. You need to focus on preventing objections as well. You need to increase your show up rate. You need to work on improving every aspect, every small thing in your sales process, and not just focusing on the sales call itself and just having the best sales script and just handling the objections the best way, because that's not really how you're gonna have a really good sales process that can systematically help you sign more clients. Now, 18th lesson is to always come prepared. When you have a call with someone, always prepare beforehand. Like get to know a bit, like try to learn more about the person that you're gonna talk to. Try to learn more about the business, because that's what's gonna help you make the call so much easier. Even in the beginning part, in the intro part of the call, where you maybe just have a small chit chat, but you actually did some research, and then you saw, oh, maybe that they became a father last month. You can try to strike a conversation about it. Maybe you saw that their business, just crossed 10 million in revenue. You can congratulate on that, or, use that information then in your sales call as well. So there's a lot of interesting things that you can find out about someone that will help you then, just make a better connection, make a better relationship, ultimately also increase your closing rate. So that's why it's important to always be prepared for everything, and then actually prepare before the call. Try to get to know the prospect that you're going to talk to. Try to learn more about their business, and not just rely on the discovery part of the call to gather all the important information. And as an example here, it just looks completely different in a prospect mind, where, for example, instead of you asking them, okay, and how do you guys get clients at the moment, you come and say, yeah, I saw that you've been doing a lot of LinkedIn. Is it the main client acquisition channel for you right now, or is there anything else that you're doing? Or if they say, instead of asking them, okay, and how many clients do you work with at the moment? Sometimes you can find that information on a website, and you can say, yeah, and I saw that on the website that you have around like 15 clients at the moment. Is it right? Or like, were you able to scale since then? And, if you just frame the conversation, like frame your question this way, it shows to them that you did your research, that you know about their business, and that's what makes closing them then way easier. Now, the next lesson is to understand your clients. And also what you should know is that sometimes you will understand your clients better, like you will understand their needs better than they will understand that themselves. So for me, for example, I'm talking to a lot of agency owners and coaches every single month. And that's why if a client comes to me and, thinks that he knows best about his problems, like what he needs to do to scale, to some extent that's true, but at the same time, sometimes I know more things, because I talked to not just him, I talked to 100 agency owners this year. and I know, you know, in that market, like what's the main problem right now, how people solve that, how different things are working. So I have a lot of data about my prospects, and sometimes I know better what they need right now than they think what they need. So kind of like a strange thing. At the same time, it just makes sense if you look at it, because if you're talking to, let's say, a lot of e-commerce brand owners at 100K per month level that are looking to scale to 1 million per month, you probably know more what they need, or like what they're struggling with, or like their pain points right now, than they know themselves, because they are just one person and you talk to 100 e-commerce brands at a similar level. Now, the next thing is that you simply need to believe in what you're selling. If you don't believe in what you're selling, people can sense that. People will see that on a call, you know, that you actually don't believe in what you're selling. And even if you think that you believe in what you're selling, like subconsciously, people will just think something is not right if there are any, like, you know, things, any parts that you're hesitant about. And as an example, like I can tell you a quick story. We had a closer last year and it was working really well. He was closing, you know, quite a lot of clients. We were getting really good results with him. But then he saw other, you know, other agencies in the space, the offers that they were running, even though those agencies were smaller and were just like testing their offers, promising, you know, adding crazy guarantees to the offer. And then we had that closer not really lose a belief in our offer, but just he came to us and he was trying to improve the offer and saying, oh, I'm hearing these objections from my prospects. We need to change the offer. We need to add a guarantee. We need to do this. We need to do that. And, you know, me as a founder, knowing the data, like having the data from working with our clients, working with different people in the space as well, I knew that what we're selling right now is good and that we don't have to really change that many things. Well, maybe some of the insights that he has, like, you know, he had were good, but at the same time, we didn't really make those, you know, improvements back then. And therefore, he lose the trust in our offer because he wanted to change it. He wanted to sell something different. And what we had was also like a bit different. And then because of that, his close rate went from like 30% to 0%. 1 month he had a 0% close rate because I could tell like the only difference, like there's nothing that changed in the process. The only difference was that he lost trust in the offer. And then when I jumped back to the position of a closer, the next month after that, I had a 46% close rate on that same offer without changing anything. So it's just, you know, about the fact that I believed in what I was selling and he lost that belief. Now, next lesson is that you should talk less. That's something that I'm definitely guilty of because a lot of the times when I'm on a sales call, I just try, and a prospect, let's say a prospect asks a question, I'm trying to give him like a full explanation. I'm just like start to rant about how we do things, you know, how does the process looks like. And again, what I see the top closers do is that they use less words, and then they also like don't go too much into details, you know, when they don't need to. And one good example of that is that the way you can tell whether someone is probably not very skilled in sales is that when they ask you questions, they're gonna ask a lot of small follow-up questions as well, because not only because of that, but also because they are uncomfortable with silence. So if they ask, oh, so how many clients did you get last month from LinkedIn? And they just like keep adding things, you know, to the question. Or, you know, let's say another example. Okay, so what is your strategy right now for YouTube, you know, with your content that you're doing right now? And they just like keep adding things to the question because they are afraid of the silence. They are not used to that. And because of that, they just use so many words. And it's actually scientifically proven that top salespeople use way less words and they speak way less than, you know, just mediocre average salespeople. Now, another lesson is that your first impression is truly your last impression. And a lot of the times sales calls where they lose the deals, you know, where people lose the deals is in the first 5 minutes. It's not in the last part of the call. It's in the first 5 minutes. The way you set the frame, the way you start the conversation, the way you go from just a chit chat to asking questions, you know, like there's a lot of things that matter. And the first impressions that someone gets from you is probably the last impression. So a lot of the deals, you can actually lose them in the first 5 minutes of the call. And that's why it's really important to just master the start of the call to make sure that you can do everything the right way there. And so that, you know, you're giving off a really good first impression. And now the final thing I learned is that you should never delegate sales too quickly. That's a mistake that I made. You know, I try to delegate the sales too quickly. But you as a founder, like you're probably gonna be the best closers. You as the face of the company who understands the business, understands the offer, understands the prospects, you're probably gonna, especially if you have a brand on YouTube, on LinkedIn, you know, brand out there, personal brand, you're gonna be the best closer in your company. And even, you know, people that are more skilled than you who might have worse results. So that's why it's important that first you just master the whole sales process yourself and that you close the deals, you know, yourself, so you can also understand the prospects, what they need, understand what questions do they have, what objections do they have, and then only then you can really delegate that to someone. So that's basically all of the lessons that I had. Now, if you're an entrepreneur, agency owner, coach looking to build a brand on YouTube and use that to get get more clients. This is exactly what we help our clients with. So if you're interested in having me and my team help you with that, down below this video you can find the link to my calendar, so you can just book a one-on-one call and we can show you the strategy we could implement together. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and go watch this video next.